introduce myself a little bit in addition. Thank you very much, Jorge, for the introduction. I have been a developer for a very long time. I have been practicing Agile for nearly as long, since 1999. And many aspects of the work that I do revolve around the development of software, the practice of Agile, and the organization of teams. You can see in the pictures that I've got a more formal picture, and also that I have a jumpsuit from NASA. That's actually really from a trip when I was in school that I spent a week at NASA. This was part of a Halloween party where I was able to reuse that outfit. So I do take my work very seriously, but I don't always. The topics that we're going to be covering today are around visualizing work, being able to see it. First, I'm going to talk about why this topic. Why are we talking about this? What does it mean to visualize our work, and why do we care about it? And then I'm going to start at the top down. I'm going to start at organization-wide collaborative road mapping and seeing our work pull together from a roadmap perspective. The next level down in the organization that we're going to talk about being able to see the work is how do we organize work across teams and pull that work together as it relates to executing on things, either programs or projects that cross the team boundaries. Then we're going to come down one step lower into the organization where we're visualizing the work of the team. This is where frequently we will see team boards showing the stories or the cards that are being executed on by the team. Below the work of the team, I actually will also diverge a little bit into talking about personal work that we do, how we can actually manage and visualize our own work and what we ourselves do. Throughout all of these topics, I have pictures and stories from real clients and previous engagements that I've done to try and show it and make it real. And I will tell a little bit about each of those as we progress through these slides and the materials. So why should we visualize our work? What's so important about it? The purpose of visualizing work requires that we focus on things. If we as individuals, as teams, as organizations are focused on the right things, then we can get more of those right things done. Being distracted by the wrong things, not putting our energy into the very important things that we need to be working on, that will dilute our ability to get work done or get the right work done. So it's important that we visualize our work so that we can make sure and focus on the right things, the right work, the right success and accomplishments. Otherwise, we'll be taking our energies away from the work and the energy and the purpose that we should be following. Another reason that we should visualize our work and some of the benefit in it is if we don't visualize work, then it's very easy to sub-optimize, to make one part of our system much better and improve something over here, but that actually can have a detrimental effect on the whole system. By making one thing faster, to pick an example from software development, if we get faster at writing new code, but we don't also get faster at testing it and making sure that it has no regressions, we actually can make the system worse by introducing more bugs into the system. And the sub-optimization of writing code faster, if it's not paired with the other parts of the activities of doing the right quality checks and regression testing, if that's the case, then we will actually hurt the whole system. And so a reason to visualize our work is so that we can see the whole picture and we can be focused on optimizing that whole picture and not just individual pieces of that picture. Another reason that we can and should visualize our work is the fact that status reports and project plans are not really as effective as we hope that they would be. Being able to provide a written status report or update a spreadsheet and project that out and share that for, say, a program or a project plan update, Those things are useful, but they're not as useful as we hoped they would be. Very difficult to interpret them. It's easy to miss the big picture for the details that we see in those types of status report communications. Being able to visualize and see the actual work gives us a much greater sense of understanding where we really are that certain types of status reports don't give us. And so while there's value in the status reports and project plan communications, it's not as much as we hoped. And being able to visualize our work provides that bigger picture, that sense of where things really are. So to summarize some of the important reasons to visualize our work, we want to be able to reduce our risks. We don't want the risk of working on the wrong things. We don't want to risk optimizing one piece at the expense of the whole. We also want to increase our ability to communicate effectively across teams and across the organization. We want to also collaborate and create synchronicity so that we're all working and focusing on the right things. We're working on the things that matter all together. Doing these things helps us save money and time, not working on wrong things, working on things more effectively. These are all ways that we can save time, which saves us time to market, and we can not work on things that we should avoid, which would be a waste of money. So these are some of the reasons that this is important and that we should be focusing on. Let's take a look at the bigger picture and see some of the context that we'll be talking within. This is referred to as either the Agile onion or the Agile pudding. Those are two names that this diagram goes by. At the bottom, we can see the very short frequency of time. So down here, we see minutes, and then hours, and then days, and then weeks, and then months, and years. This time frame gives us a large context, a large scale that we can think about planning and work and visualizing our work. At the very bottom of this scale are things like the stand-up meeting and continuous integration and test-driven development. Above these, we get to the weekly sprint plan. The sprint plan is where the teams are often working. The team's Agile board is often used in this context. At the multiple months, we can talk about release plans, we can talk about programs and projects or epics tracking to completion. Beyond that, we can talk about roadmaps and where the organization is going and will be in 1 or 2 or 3 years. These are the topics, the areas that we'll be focusing on in this, and we'll have examples at each of these levels. The vision, the purpose of the business beyond this is not something that I have a way of visualizing or providing a template for work management styles for. The vision is beyond the scope of this webinar, and we're assuming that we have a vision that we're driving towards. And so that's actually beyond visualizing work. That's more of creating the purpose of the organization. The conversation in this webinar will be from the roadmap level down towards the sprint and stand-up meetings. So let's start at collaborative road mapping and provide a big picture view, a framework that we can talk about and visualize the work of the organization. The road mapping style that is presented here is a multi-level collaborative road mapping technique. You can see that the time horizon, the columns, from here to here to here to here, is at least as long as quarters, and it might be as long as years. So we're looking at a 1 to 4 year horizon, depending on how we build this roadmap and what we're trying to track in this roadmap. The rows for this roadmap include the market and the customers. This is the who, market segments, small and medium business, individual consumers. This is the row where we're talking about the actual target of the market that we would be selling products to. The features and benefit map are the different features or capabilities or product offerings that that market is interested in. These first two rows are where the product management, the marketing, the sales, and the executive management offices are very focused in looking at. As we move into the third row, the architectural column, this is where the development, IT, and technologists bring most of the content and information to it. We can see, though, that the architecture that is necessary to support some of these features is drawn out into this map with the connecting lines. What this is showing is the connection between business and development, and it's visualizing that connection in a collaborative way. The implication of this architectural activity here is that it is designed to lead and support the feature development in this bubble, and then leading towards a go-to-market in this square here. I just want to ask a quick question. If some people could reply, when I'm pointing with the mouse, is that visible to everyone? Not to me. Let me know. Okay, I apologize. Let me try. I thought that I had clicked the right mouse pointer. Okay. All right. So this will, okay. All right. So let me see if I can get an erase button. Yeah, you know, I've done something. Okay. Let me try something. Sorry about these technical difficulties. Okay. So the architectural bubble is designed to lead and support the feature and benefit, which is designed to lead and support the market map, the go-to-market strategy for something. What this is doing is it's providing a very, very big picture plan for how we're going to approach a market, and it's building it with collaboration between the business and the dev side of things. So where biz-dev alignment is often talked about, this is a style of producing a plan, a strategic plan that is actually doing and showing that business development alignment. This style of road mapping is actually implemented in an appendix of this book, Beyond Software Architecture by Luke Homan. And it advocates bringing together the marketing, the sales, product, architecture, dev, infrastructure. And then often I will add an additional row to that map, which is organizational change. The organizational change of growing teams or merging teams or reforming teams, and doing training and activities and making changes into the organization itself and the people, the staff, is also another place that is very useful to put into these roadmaps over time. Here is an example of a roadmap from a previous engagement. This roadmap has a market map, a features and benefit map, a technology evolution, and an organizational change. In this case, you can see that there are some connections between these items. Some of them are standalone and not connected to the rest of the features. Others actually are connected with different relationships. And the team as a whole, the leadership in this organization, built this plan together as a strategy from, this was Q1 of 2015 through Q2, Q3, and Q4. And so this was a plan at the beginning of this year for how to execute on the goals of the organization. Here is another roadmap and another example from the previous engagement. This organization had multiple teams working, they thought, independently. I don't actually think that this one is a clear roadmap. This is an example of a road mapping exercise that produced a lot of conclusions and understanding of what was really going on. The organization thought that they were working independently, But as they began uncovering the dependencies between their teams and the work that they were doing, you can see the various lines in here were significant. Next slide. These are some of the important realizations that they had from doing this road mapping activity. The realization that they didn't think they can actually do everything. Until they visualized all the work that they were actually doing, they thought that they were going to be able to finish this all in 1 quarter. And the activity of putting it all on the wall and seeing it, visualizing it, gave them the real sense that this was not going to happen. They also identified 2 or 3 strategic disconnects. And their CEO commented that I didn't think we were overcommitted, but we are. And so this roadmap, while it's not actually a very good roadmap that they can take action from, it did, however, teach them a lot of important realizations about their own organization and what they were doing. And they were able to make different decisions based on this. This is actually a visualization of some tools that I have used to do this same road mapping technique in a distributed sense. I do recommend some of these techniques start with physical board, physical paper, and post-it notes on a wall with the team collaborating around it. Many of these techniques can also be used in a distributed manner. This is a way of using tools to support teams that are distributed and provide some of these same visualization techniques. After coming and approaching the very big picture of 1 to 4 years in a road mapping that is aligning across the market and features and architectural evolution, then within the slice of what are we doing next, we can look at a slightly lower level detail. This would be at the level of agile release planning. This would be quarterly planning cycles, or a few months of planning towards a release or a customer go-to-market. One of the techniques that I find very useful for agile organizations is to actually use programs as the method of tracking work that comes together that is bigger than any one thing. In this case, we can see a visualization of a program where there's a specific project or goal, and then multiple activities that carry from that. One of the things that I would highlight about this is these tend to be triangular shaped. We can see, I can draw some lines on here. We can see that the goal kind of spreads out in this direction with some number of dependent items trailing around. This way of representing this information is a little bit backwards in some senses, and I wanted to highlight and show this, that if we flip this around and simply mirror it, we're working in time from the first task towards the completion. This is the natural way that we would do it in a project plan. In organizations working on these, though, in an agile or a lean Kanban environment, we tend to pull work from the side. We tend to pull work that's on the left ready side of the board across the board to the right. This helps us visualize this as a flow-based system, and that flow-based system allows us to more smoothly carry the work through our system. And so these programs we tend to organize visually as having the tasks that are next ready to work on the right side of the picture, and the ultimate conclusion goal, epic or project on the left-hand side. That sets us up to be able to pull work through our system from left to right. If we take those programs and want to visualize that across multiple teams, if the organization has more than one team and those teams are working on multiple different areas of the system to pull all of that together to reach that conclusion, then we have different ways of showing the work mapping out into different teams. What we're showing in this diagram is the sprinting work for 3 teams. Across all three of the teams, though, there is a shared project. This project is, in this case, labeled Project A, and it involves 8 work activities, 8 stories, or 8 cards that are spread across these 3 teams. In this case, the coordination between teams 1 and team 2 and team 3 and team 2 are some of the more interesting aspects that we're trying to show and reflect. If team 2 ends up progressing more slowly, or work becomes interrupted and the activities that the other teams depend upon are pushed out, we can see the effect of that in this picture. We can see that that will have an impact on both teams 1 and team 3. This helps us understand those consequences. It also helps us to prioritize the work that we're doing so that we don't step into that situation where the work is then affected across multiple teams. In this case, what that would mean primarily is that teams 2 priorities of working on these cards from the A project are higher priority than the other cards in teams 2 backlog because of the consequences across multiple teams. Another variation of showing the cross-team activity, this one is highlighting the more collaborative aspects of doing this kind of work, is showing that both team 1 and team 2 and team 1, 2, and 3 might very well be working on the same things at the same time. In this case, team 1 and team 2 is working together on this first activity. They're collaborating on this and scheduling it at the same time. This could be actually representing a virtual team that forms just temporarily to work on these activities together. The takeaway, though, is that as these activities work and finish, that sets up the next 2 activities so that 3 teams can now collaborate together, working on all of this work at the same time. There's something that I wanted to highlight in this context, is that if teams are working in a more collaborative sense, if I jump back to the previous picture, this is a less collaborative approach where work is sequenced with handoffs. This approach is more collaborative where work is done collaboratively together at the same time. One of the main consequences of this is that it is possible to have shorter schedules, shorter calendar schedules, with a more collaborative approach. Teams are not waiting for other teams, but instead they're working together more. Being able to show these 2 styles of work provides either a buffer in case something is delayed, or it provides the ability to have a shorter schedule, a shorter number of sprints, in order to be able to accomplish all of Project A more quickly. These are 2 pictures from a cross-team planning session that involved planning across 17 teams. Most of the teams were product feature teams. Some of the teams were back-end service teams running service-oriented architectures. And 1 or 2 of the teams were IT and operational teams. So the 17 teams had, to some degree or another, a manner of dependency across all of them. And what we did is we planned out a number of months. This was a quarterly planning session, so it was 3 months. We can see, if I draw small pictures in here, each column in here represents a sprint that was planned in this case. Actually, that black is very difficult to see. Sorry, let me pick a different color. Okay. So each of these columns was a 2-week sprint, and the teams were doing sprint planning for themselves in the quarter, and also a little bit beyond the quarter. what we can see is the pink sticky notes. So each of these pink notes, so that is a pink sticky note right there. There are 3 of them in a column just below this arrow. Each of these pink sticky notes, that we picked that color to stand out. Each one of those for this teaming activity reflected a dependency on another team. And that other team then had another post-it note on their backlog that reflected doing that work, either at the same time in collaboration with this work, the pink sticky note, or ahead of time so that it was ready when the team with the dependency needed it. And this was done, actually, this was done in a large conference room. You can see many of the team members. We had multiple representative individuals from each team. This was not every team member in this case, but a large cross-section of the teams. We spent a couple of days doing this planning, uncovering the dependencies across the teams, and then showing them with these techniques. This is one more technique for cross-team visualizations. This is value stream mapping. So this is the value stream map for maintenance fixes, for bug fixing, for an organization. What the team was doing was showing their different activities and the flow that the work would go through. We can see here in the top, let me make sure I've got a pointer. Right there, we see that green represents the development function, the role of developing code. We can see that blue is the QA function, and the other aspects of this organization. What these are is representing the different functions, the different silos within the organization. A value stream, in particular, cuts across those silos. At the beginning of this value stream, on the very left-hand side, represents a customer need. In this case, it's a bug or a fault that needs to be fixed. On the right-hand side, that reflects delivering that back to the customer. And what you've done is you've actually created a full cycle between the customer's need and delivery and providing providing value back to that customer. And so looking across this, what we've done is we've cut across all of the organization, across all of the silos. Being able to do analysis and study the work that's flowing through the entire system is being able to study the work that's flowing all the way through this across all of the different silos, being able to see the whole picture of work flowing through, and then being able to optimize the whole picture provided a significant benefit to this organization. One of the things that became particularly obvious in this case was in this setting here. What this was doing was providing an opportunity for the team to test their fixes in an integration environment. And it's not possible to read this sticky note. It's too small and also reflects information private to this organization. But the consequence of what was on that sticky note was that the amount of time it took to deploy new code to the integration environment actually was a significant portion of time that was delaying getting these fixes to customers. And so what we were able to do, understanding this big picture, is to say that if we all put more effort into making that integration deployment faster, we can save the whole process a significant amount of time, making fixing and delivering bug fixes much faster. Instead of trying to optimize for the development, finding the bugs, or the quality function to test the bug fix, actually putting effort into the integration environment was the biggest effect on improving this system. Being able to see this across all of the organization, across all of the silos, gave us that ability to make that decision as a whole across the different silos. So we've talked about the roadmap, which is from 1 to 4 years out into the future. We've talked about cross-team organizational things, where teams can be collaborating together on various projects, working towards the conclusion of those projects, and the value stream across the different silos of the organization. Let's move into the team-based activities, where we're looking at the work of the team itself. This will probably be very familiar for people. Agile team boards showing work that is ready, in progress, and done is one example of this. The example that I'm showing here is a Kanban board, which has work that is in several different columns, not just in progress, but distinguishes those more. Where work is ready, can move into, in this example, can move into UX for user-faced design analysis, can move into dev and test, and then finally move into done. This Kanban board reflects a flow of work across the UX, the dev, and the test silos. It is a little bit related to the value stream, but it's not quite the same thing. It's usually a more narrowly focused process activity. Here is a blurry example from one of the original Kanban boards that I worked with a team on. This was a team that was exploring their style and their workflow. This team had 3 different types of work: IT work, website work, and infrastructure work, where they had a process set up where work was in progress and then in review. The review stage included the broader organization beyond just the development team. And then items were ready for deployment into production. And so this was one of the original Kanban boards that I actually myself worked on with the team back in 2007 was when this Kanban board was developed. Another example of a Kanban board for team visualization has more columns in it in this case. The backlog is still consistent. These are stories or work items to work on. And then items are in definition. Let me bring some pointers back. So in definition here, oops, sorry, that's a little bit than I meant. Ready for development is a waiting area. In progress in development, done from development. Exploratory testing, and then product owner acceptance. What this has done is it has made visible and visual the workflow that the team actually goes through while working on their backlog items. The number of columns, the exact nature of the columns, these are particular for each team and environment that is being worked on. These are not something that there's one right answer, but rather this is something that is appropriate for the team. Kanban boards tend to have more columns than traditional Agile boards, but that's really a matter of taste and style and context. Another aspect of visualizing the work of the system is the continuous integration, what I'm calling pre-production pipelines. Being able to see the flow of work that is actually deployed to production can be a very useful visualization. In this diagram, what we see is developers or development teams working on code that is checked into version control. Code that is checked into version control. That is then picked up by continuous integration servers and deployed to testing clusters. From there, in this picture, that's happening in multiple different environments for different parts of the system or different deployable services. From there, then in this pipeline, that work is then integrated again into a larger whole, tested in a staging server. The implication is that this is with pre-production data. And then from there, what we can do is we can have a person that is the final decider of what is pushed out into the production servers. Being able to visualize this flow of new code, new features, new fixes, all the way through to production provides a visualization of the team's activities, in this case also a little bit of the cross-team activities that get us to our production systems. And so being able to see and understand this and look for opportunities where work is going slowly or where there's opportunities for risk to occur, risks for failures to occur, are another way of being able to see this bigger picture of how work is being promoted all the way to production. I'm going to take one more divergence then away from the team work and backlog, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about personal work visualization. This is an example of one of my own boards with my own work for some clients. What this is showing, I've organized this into long-term and short-term activities and goals. What I'm actually working on now, what I'm recently done with. Do I have concerns, requests or asks of me, and random ideas, and those things that are currently stuck that I'm not able to make progress on. Besides being able to show people around me what are the things that I'm working on now, what have I finished, and what do I think I'm working on next, one of the other things that this often is very useful for is when I'm working with teams or organizations, I can bring this board to meetings and the conversations, and I can say, these are the things that I think are the important things for me to be working on. Do you agree? Am I on the right track? Do we want to add something? Do we want to remove something? Or do we have the priorities wrong? Being able to have that conversation, being able to say, these are the things that I think matter right now, and these are the things that I plan on working on next, that opens up the opportunity for uncovering assumptions that I might have misunderstood about the real priorities in the organization. It uncovers the impact of there's several things here that need work on, and other people in the organization might have only assumed it was one, and realizing that that disparity can provide great insight and opportunity for making better decisions. Being able to show and highlight these things of what I as an individual am working on provides a lot of opportunity for communication and sets the stage for good conversations that we can have to make sure that what I'm focused on is the right stuff. And so even all the way down to the individual work that one person is doing, being able to provide visualizations can help us work on the right things, keep us on the right track, and keep us focused on the most important things at this time. More references that back up this personal visualization of work include two books that I would recommend on the topic. One is Getting Things Done by David Allen, and the other is Personal Kanban by Jim Benson. Both of these books are very, very useful tools for understanding how we do work, as well as being able to show and visualize it so that others can understand what we're doing and also have feedback on that work. I wanted to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about some of the conclusions that I draw from working at these various levels with organizations. While I do that, I will show this picture again. Again, this is called the Agile Planning Flame or the Agile Planning Onion, depending on which example. The Planning Flame reference is that these activities at the lower levels move much faster and they burn hotter than the slower moving activities at the top. At these levels here, at the stand-up meeting and the sprint planning meeting, At those levels, we see that it's very useful to track the work that we as individuals are working on, the work that the team is working on, and being able to share and see those things together, being able to see the code that is being migrated towards production. Seeing those things gives us a lot of opportunity to make sure that we're on the right track. If something is blocked or stuck, we can very quickly react to it, and we don't have to suffer long delays that take us a month to find out that we're not moving and making progress. The next level higher, at the release planning stage, where we're planning months and weeks of activity out into the future, we can identify dependencies between different teams. We can schedule out how long we think things might take in the next weeks or months, and have a sense of how long those activities will be, and be able to look at that in a visual timeline in release plan and say, yeah, those things seem reasonable. We think we'll get these stories, these cards done in this time frame, and not in that time frame. At the higher level, at the road mapping in multiple years level, we see that we're trying to tie together the vision, the purpose of the business, the markets, and the features and the capabilities with the architectural and organizational evolution that can get us there and help us succeed with that. The ability to see and plan at the 1, 2, and 3 year level gives us a very big picture of context to work within. Being able to visualize work and see what we're trying to do at all of these levels can provide a much more consistent and coherent way of working on the right things. It's no longer hiding in status documents and email, but what we're doing as an organization, where we're succeeding, can become visible and obvious to all of us. Those are the examples that I've seen and used and wanted to share. I've found great value in being able to see the work across the organization, and I recommend that at the different levels that we're working, at our individual, at our team, at our organizational levels, that we work on creating ways of seeing that work and visualizing it. And this presentation has examples of doing that. And I encourage everyone to take these examples or build your own styles that will greater show the value and the visibility of work that's going on in your own organizations. And with that, we can conclude the slide formal presentation and discussion, and open it up for questions and more discussion. And for that purpose, I will actually leave it on this picture so that we can see kind of the big organization. I have not been tracking the chat window very closely. So what I would do is ask everyone who has comments that they would like me to reflect upon, or questions that we can talk about. If you can start retyping those into the chat window again, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do a very good job of reviewing what has already happened right now. Oh, actually, I do see the latest comment. Kanban uses limits on workloads. That is very true. The pictures that I had did not have the WIP limits visible, but that is a key characteristic of Kanban. You are very correct. Limiting WIP, W-I-P, work in progress, is a critical aspect of Kanban. Work in progress. Let's see, can we apply also with Scrum Kanban? Yes, the visuals that I showed in here were a little bit specific from Kanban, but a Scrum board also can show those visualizations. The cross-team planning, let's see, this planning session with 17 teams, this environment was using Scrum with 2-week sprints, not with Kanban. So Eduardo is commenting that it is more productive to have visualization physical boards. Oh, the physical versus virtual, that is a really interesting conversation. Um, I actually think that having both is the right answer still today. And what I would comment on, even though there is some overhead to keeping two different systems synchronized, having both provides the best local experience. Being able to walk up to a team, look at the board, the visible radiator of information, and then being able to have a conversation about it. That local experience is phenomenal. And it also provides the immediate tactile feedback for the team members themselves. The electronic systems provide the best remote and organization-wide metrics analytics experience. And so both of those are very important. But I'm a huge fan of having physical boards. And you can see in this presentation the number of Post-it notes and physical boards that are present. That's on purpose. The exposure of using physical cards and moving them provides a very important feedback. So other lean tools that you recommend to become agile, eliminate, not value added. So lean, one of the aspects of lean is being able to eliminate waste. I would say that a key but hard thing to do in the software development, in the information management space that lean points at in waste is also something that I would call the cost of delay and trying to remove delays from the system. I'm going to type a couple of notes in here. Let's see. So who is this? Okay. So, so lean promotes removing waste, and waste delay is a key waste. And so the tool that I would recommend, not a software tool necessarily, but the approach strategy tool would be flow efficiency. So flow efficiency is how much time that work is in progress is it actually being worked on. So one way of looking at that is to say that we're going to measure how much touch time, how many times we actually do work against all of the clock time. And so if a card is being worked on by a team and it's on the wall either in progress or code review or some state for a week and then it's released out and done, if people were working on it for 2 full days and a half day and the rest of the time it was blocked, then it was blocked for about 2.5 days and it was being worked on for about 2.5 days. That's actually a 50% flow efficiency. With many of the teams that I work with, the flow efficiency tends to be lower. It tends to be between 10 and 25% flow efficiency. And so if we're looking at a lean tool that can help us remove waste in our system, help us go faster, go better, go smoother, go easier, I would say actually that flow efficiency is a tremendously useful metric to track. And all you're really doing is saying, how much time did we spend actually working on this versus how much time did it take in total to progress through our system? And so that would be a tool that I would recommend. It's not a specifically visual tool, so it's not a part of this conversation necessarily, but being able to look at work that's flowing through the system in the value stream or in the development pipeline or across the Kanban or Agile boards, flow efficiency is a very useful calculation and metric to examine in that case. Let's see, more questions or comments? Let's see. Does anybody have any questions that I've not answered? I'm not able to effectively scroll through the chat window, so I would ask that people retype questions or comments. And then another question that I would have of the organization, of the audience, is which of these different techniques were substantially new and not already known to you? If there was one that stood out that you didn't really know about it already or hadn't seen it in practice, I'd love to hear that feedback from you. Let's see, so Able, you get the maps you were showing, planning 17 teams. The maps. So how did we actually make these? How did we actually create that? Is that the physical products that we've produced here? Go, Able, I'm asking. I'm going to assume, Able, that your question, the how do we get these that we're showing? That actually is simply a piece of butcher paper, a piece of roll of paper, and we cut them and folded them so that we had 8 regions. We were planning 6 sprints, but we had a couple of placeholders for work that might be kind of tacked on the end. And then we used 3M Post-it notes to fill in into those sprints of various colors. So this was really just a paper exercise that was shown here in this activity. Afterwards, the teams did take those paper products and put them into a tool to visualize. Most of the teams created a reflection of it in PowerPoint so that they could show it in a deck, and it also went into their tool, their electronic tool. Let's see. Most of the pushes are new to me. Okay. Metrics and efficiency. How do you go when analyzing, comparing teams' execution? Comparing one team to another is a very challenging thing to do smoothly. It can be very dangerous in that it can become an attack. And we don't want to attack the teams. Instead, we want the approach to be helpful and supportive. One of the things that I will often do is I will often create visualizations or metrics that are personal use, only private use by the teams and to be able to share among themselves. And some of those metrics are not really broadly promoted to management or outside of the organization. The intention with that is that we want to give teams the information that they can use to start improving and continuously improving their own systems and their own flow. But we don't want to embarrass teams that haven't had an opportunity to start reorganizing some certain things. Some things are always promoted broadly. Big work items and their progress, like the things that would be an epic, an agile epic, would be something that we can see much more broadly across the organization. The more internal metrics, though, can be more private. They're more like task execution and cycle times for internal activities. So I try to very carefully draw the line between public and private information for the teams so that we can support experiments and learning and sometimes failure without making it an attack from the rest of the organization. But that's a very tricky line to combine. Yeah, someone is commenting, we shouldn't compare teams. Each team has its own value, just track the velocity. Right. Now, there's one nuance to that, is that some teams can often benefit from learning from other teams and so on throughout the organization. So supporting we get to learn from each other mentality, and we can all learn from each other and see, I'm doing this well, but I'm not doing this other thing well. I'm struggling with that. How are you doing it? And how do we compare our teams together to learn more from each other? That's a very beneficial thing. But so if we're choosing to compare teams ourselves as teams, as we the team, that can be very beneficial. Trying to track teams' productivity aside from the large units of value, the epics and the velocity, as Eduardo mentions here, can be very, very dangerous if it becomes an attack. Yes. So I think that I answered Abel's question. Eduardo, I agree with you that we shouldn't compare teams in an attacking way, but we should learn from each other. And then I think that that's it for the questions right now. Is there anything else before we wrap? Excellent. One more comment. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate you taking your time to join me on this, and I enjoyed presenting these things, and I hope that they provide value to you. Thank you.
Okay, John, thank you very much for your presentation. It's very valuable information. This is usable. Thank you very much for coming this webinar. Gracias a todos por asistir a este webinar. Les recuerdo que el webinar fue grabado y se subirá a YouTube en nuestro canal de Software Guru. This webinar was recorded and we upload the record at YouTube in the channel of Software Guru. Pues bueno, tenemos unos avisos. Los invitamos a Agile Conference que se va a estar dando en el mes de septiembre. John va a participar en Agile Conference México, 23, 24 y 25 de septiembre, Ciudad de México, Distrito Federal. Tenemos un 25% de descuento utilizando el código AgileConfSG. Para todos aquellos que estén interesados, voy a mandar el link. Ahí pueden pre-registrarse. Y pues bueno, hacer válido este 25% de descuento. John va a dar una conferencia en estas fechas. Entonces, pues bueno, ahí los que estén interesados, ahí les dejo el link. Si gustan entrar ahí. Tenemos un curso de liderazgo efectivo. Este curso se recorrió, se va a dar el 24 de agosto. Va a estar otorgando 8 PDUs para la certificación en PMP. Y pues bueno, tiene un valor de 500 pesos masiva. Ahí toda la información se encuentra en este sitio. También les compartimos la liga para que puedan checar toda la información del curso. El curso de Big Data todavía sigue disponible. Este curso se va a iniciar el 24 de agosto. Tiene tarifa temprana todavía. Entonces, pues bueno, se les recomienda que aprovechen el descuento. Otro curso que también tiene descuentos es el de Alphas de Sense de la doctora Hannah Octava. Este curso va a estar otorgando 12 PDUs. Inicia un día después del de Big Data, el 25 de agosto. Y este curso tiene 6 sesiones. Entonces, pues bueno, aprovechen la tarifa que ya está por finalizarse. Tener curso de desarrollo de apps nativas en iPhone, iOS. Este curso ya no tiene tarifa temprana, va a estar disponible en este mes de agosto. Entonces, también, si necesitan más información, ahí les dejo el link en el chat para que puedan checar el curso. Otro curso que se va a lanzar en este mes, el de desarrollo de UX para aplicaciones móviles. Este curso, pues bueno, ya tampoco tiene tarifa temprana, entonces se va a lanzar en el mes de agosto. Tiene un costo de 1,900. Pues bueno, estén ahí atentos. Vamos a avisar cuando ya esté el curso listo en el sitio para que lo puedan devorar. Y pues bueno, toda la información se encuentra ahí en el link que les compartí en el chat. Un curso pues ya disponible en nuestro sitio es el de desarrollo de apps nativas en Android. Este curso pues bueno, está completo en el sitio, lo pueden adquirir y tienen acceso a todas las presentaciones y a los videos del curso. Pues bueno, en SG Talento sigue habiendo vacantes para todos aquellos que estén buscando actualmente un trabajo, bueno, en la industria de tecnologías de información, como desarrolladores, gerentes de sistemas, etcétera. Pues bueno, ahí tenemos muchas vacantes todavía disponibles. Entonces, pues bueno, compártanos su CV y pues bueno, ahí están todas nuestras vacantes. Los invitamos a la convocatoria de ponencias de SG Virtual. Si alguno se quiere animar a dar una conferencia en SG Virtual, es bienvenido. Mándenos su propuesta y pues bueno, las vamos a evaluar para seleccionarlos en esta edición de SG Virtual. Y pues bueno, también los hicimos sede virtual para que participen como sede virtual. Si quieren, pues bueno, las sedes virtuales consisten en que se juntan un grupo de personas, se organizan para ver juntos todas las sesiones de SG virtual. Esto puede suceder en universidades, empresas y espacios de coworking. Entonces, si están interesados en, pues bueno, participar como sede virtual, escríbanos a eventos@sg.com.mx y pues bueno, ahí también les dejé el link en el chat para que puedan registrar su sede, entonces para que puedan visualizar todo ese G virtual. Y pues bueno, también les compartimos la convocatoria a Webinar Launch and Learn. Si quieren participar, dar un webinar con nosotros, ahí también les mandamos un link para que nos manden su propuesta. Y bueno, una encuesta de necesidades, queremos mejorar nuestro catálogo de cursos, queremos saber qué es lo que necesitan de cursos, entonces, pues bueno, ahí también no les tomará más de 5 minutos responder esa encuesta, entonces queremos saber qué es lo que ustedes necesitan, ¿no? Y pues bueno, los invitamos a nuestro próximo webinar, desarrollo de aplicaciones móviles guiado por modelos mediante el uso de la notación IFML. Eh, pues bueno, será la próxima semana, igual, 2 de la tarde. Y pues bueno, están todos invitados. Ahí les dejé el link en el chat. Y de nuevo, again, John, thank you very much. Everybody, thank you. We see you at the next webinar. John, thank you very much. We see you.
Thank you.
We are in contact. Bye.